VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. On Constance. Hosted by Amy Amantea, with special guest Karin Konoval.
Welcome to this almost live event. My name is Amy Amantea. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Associate Director for VocalEye. I'm the host for these almost live events, and I'm a proud member of the blind community. And I just want to give a big thanks to folks who are joining us this evening, who have been supporters of VocalEye, who have contributed their hard-earned dollars and their kind words through testimonials. Please keep those testimonials coming. Donna puts a link in the chat for folks who may want to make a donation. And also you can find us on our website. So please help support the work that we do at VocalEye. We appreciate it very much. Especially all those kind words. You all are so, I just love reading all your testimonials. If you happen to be watching this particular episode on our YouTube channel, we would love for you to hover over and click like and subscribe. VocalEye is broadcasting to you all from the traditional and stolen lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Last week here in British Columbia, government in Victoria, our British Columbian government, announced that September the 30th is now a statutory holiday. And for folks who aren't familiar with September the 30th, this is the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. And so now in British Columbia, it's a statutory holiday. And so according to our parliament, our Labor Minister, Harry Baines, who said this will provide opportunities to hold annual commemoration events. So I hope that the government stays true to that sentiment. And then I just thought I'd share with you a couple of other important days in our calendar that acknowledge indigenous culture. And I didn't know about some of these days, so I figured if I didn't really know about them, then maybe some other folks didn't know about them. And I feel kind of bad and ignorant, so I'm learning too, friends. May the 5th is National Day of Awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I think this is something that doesn't get talked enough about. And June 21st is National Day of Indigenous Peoples. And of course, September 30th, as I just mentioned, is National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Some people refer to it as Orange Shirt Day. We wear our orange shirt days that says every child matters on them. February is also Black History Month. And in honor of Black History Month, we wanted to share a little bit of culture. And there's been a huge impact of content that has been created through the arts, and I think it's really important to showcase some of the cultural pieces. So tonight we're actually going to share a little movie trailer of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and this is to acknowledge and an appreciation of Black History Month and all the good art that's happening, but also that this trailer is described by our friend Robert Kingett and team, and so this trailer is available with audio description. And Rick, when you have a moment, please hit play. We'll experience this together. Stand by. Rick will be hitting play in a moment. Here we
go. Marvel Studios. In a procession with a white hood covering her face, Shuri carries T'Challa's Black Panther helmet. In a watery cave dwelling, Namor paints a Mayan design on a wall. At T'Challa's funeral, Wakandans dance dressed in white. With clenched fists, Shuri crosses her arms over her chest.
Only the most broken people.
With white dots painted on her face, Shuri stares off sadly. Drummers play beside a mural of T'Challa.
Can be great leaders.
Underwater, in a regal feathered headdress, Namor submerges into a shark-jawed throne and brings down his staff. Okoye tearfully thrusts her spear into the throne room's clay floor. Golden City towers up behind the empty throne. From Baku to his tribe,
his people did not call him general or king. They called him Kukulkan, the feather serpent god.
Namor hovers.
Killing him will risk eternal war.
Soldiers storm a lab.
He's coming for the surface world.
Namor prepares to strike the throne room's window. The Dora Milaje take out the soldiers. This November, Ramonda faces Namor on a beach.
We know what you whisper.
A cop car flips. Okoye spins a sports car.
They have lost the protector.
tidal wave sweeps through Wakanda.
Now is our time to strike.
The wings on Namor's ankles propel him into battle. Riri Williams works on her Ironheart suit and takes flight. She whizzes through the air. M'Baku beats his chest.
Show them who we are.
A round hatch opens and a slender female figure wearing the Black Panther suit drops through. A bright surge of purple energy ripples up the black vibranium weave suit. Dots light up her mast. In gleaming silver-rimmed letters, Wakanda Forever, Marvel Studios' Black Panther. Only in cinemas November 11th.
There you go. I think that's going to be on my watch list this February. So welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, February the 15th, 2023. And tonight we're proud to offer you our Almost Live event number 110. I can't believe we've done 110 of these. Well, we will have after we've completed tonight. So let's not wait any further because I know that Karin is in the wings. Tonight's episode is entitled On Constance, and our special guest is Karin Konoval. Welcome, Karin.
It's wonderful to be here with you, Amy. Just wonderful.
I'm so grateful to share space with you. So thank you for joining us. And I know you've got a lot of fans of the blind community, and a lot of fans from your life in general. For folks who don't know you, and there may be a few, can you give us a little bit of background about who Karin is and what you do?
Okay. I'm a professional actor. And I've been a professional actor for, golly, over 30 years now on stage and screen and stuff like that. So film and television. I'm a painter, and my second book is what we're here to investigate tonight.
I love that. Your second book. Tonight's a special night too, because this is the first time that you'll be doing a live reading.
Yes, it is.
Of your work. So how does that feel to you? I know how it feels to me. How does that feel to you?
It's really incredible. It's when I set out to do On Constance, actually one of the first things I wanted to do, but was not a print book in particular, but I wanted to do an audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
I've narrated many other either books or short stories or various things for CBC and different things over the years. And there's just something about being able to finally share my own work that's really special to me. And I wanted to speak it. I've always just wanted to speak it. So it was a real particular joy to do the recording of the audiobook. And I'm so happy to be here doing this like live with everybody here tonight, to be able to share some pieces of the book. And it's very exciting. It is. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. And we're so informal here. So it's a really great opportunity. Like, I mean, informal as in we're kind and gentle, and it's a great place for a first time anything, right? Because we come to this work with generosity of spirit. And I think that's also important from a performing perspective, but from an audience's perspective, that we share space together that way. Can you, I know we're going to talk a lot about the book and a lot about your work in general, because they relate. There's a lot of different pieces of this book that will relate to your history and the work that you've done in your history. So
that's true. And that's true in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose I can say, somebody asked me this as an actor once and as an artist once, about bringing yourself to the work, and what you like. For me, it was around access, and I was asked whether each piece that I do involves disability, education, advocacy, all those pieces, or it's just about entertaining. And I grappled with that because I said I don't think I can separate that from myself, the advocacy, that kind of stuff. So when you think about like the writings of a book like this, do you think about a focus for it, or do you think about bringing your whole self to it? Or I'm kind of curious about the process.
Well, I'd have to say it's quite a bit simpler than that for me. This was a journey, and it happened to be a journey that I took because I was doing a film in New Orleans, and the journey that came out of it the experience of doing the film was very challenging throughout. There's no question about it. And there's nothing about that in the book, or very precious little. But the journey that I thought that it might become outside of the filming was surprising in every way. If I had thought it would be one thing, it turned out to be something else entirely. And then even later, but in a very, very simple, so it was all just me. So I wasn't actually thinking about, do I put myself into this or take myself out of this or anything. I was observing and I was on the journey, and that's what happened with the notebook I brought with me. And what that became later, I mean, it actually, On Constance is still a journey to this day, because what it became once I looked back on the journey and wrote the story about 2 or 3 years later, and then revisited it 7 years later or 6 years later, I began to see things in it that I had never even realized when I was actually on the journey in the first place. So for me, I don't really think about bringing myself to or not bringing myself to or anything. Being present to what is going on. And as an actor, that's the major thing that we have to do, is be very prepared and then just be there. But there's not really a choice on my part to advocate or not advocate, or, you know what I mean? I'm there, and then just as I'm here now, and that's sort of, so as I say, it's quite simple, and there's a very simple heart at the heart of On Constance.
I'm sure we will get deeper into that a little bit later too, because I would love it if you would set up for us a little bit about the film itself, the Planet of the Apes film, because as you say, there's very little talk about the film in the book, but it's a part of the sort of the overall story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we went to New Orleans to film the second in this trilogy of films. Didn't know it was going to be a trilogy. Actually had no clue there was going to be another film after the first, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first one that we did. And so so we had already done Rise of the Planet of the Apes. We filmed that in Vancouver, and then we filmed part of Dawn in Vancouver. And then we went to New Orleans for the better part of that filming, from May until August, which, if anybody knows New Orleans, is a time of year that you don't want to be, basically don't want to be there. So it was a very, very challenging shoot. And I mean, I guess that's about all I can say about it, is and playing an orangutan, and we do that through motion capture, through performance capture, with in the full regalia, the gray suits and the helmet with the helmet camera and all of that stuff. It's very intense and intensive. There's something about the work in performance capture that I find as an actor requires more of me than even speaking words and wearing a costume and stuff like that. So not only the challenge of fully portraying an orangutan, the quadrupeding, the leaping about, all of that, just all of that, the long calling, the psychology, the everything, but it's a very challenging thing for one on just about any level. It really is. So that was what was going on the other side of underneath this story.
And just for some context, Karin, because I know that you have lots of fans in the space that maybe know your journey here, but we also have new listeners to this journey. So
sure.
The work, the preparation for the filming, for you to portray an orangutan to be filmed, led you on this journey to connect and to watch and to witness and to interact with live animals. And so can you talk a bit about that? Because I think, for some folks who've never seen what this live capture is before, it's kind of a hard thing to imagine.
Yeah, it really is, because it's not like, well, the way they filmed the first Planet of the Apes film in 1968, I believe.
That's the Charlton Heston one, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And that was all prosthetic like suits. So you're getting the latex, the everything. Pardon me. And that's a very challenging thing to do. I've done a lot of prosthetic roles myself, and once you're sealed in that latex, it's severe for the day, that's for sure. With performance capture, capture. The challenge of it is if you are in prosthetic, you can look in a mirror and basically, as difficult as that is, but then you inhabit what you see in the mirror. With performance capture, because we're in the gray suits and we're all lit up with all kinds of, dots and things in the helmet with the face camera, there's no reference. So your whole reference is from within. So you have to fully inhabit your character of whatever species you're playing in every conceivable way. And there's something about performance capture work and the way the cameras pick up every single, I want to say, thought. Like there's nowhere to hide in performance capture. It's almost like it would be easier to lie or fake something as an actor in clothes and speaking, but as soon as you've got nothing and it's completely from within, they're picking up every single muscle movement of your face, everything. And what I found with the process of playing Maurice in the 3 films was that my thoughts had to be so clear. Every choice I made, not just every movement, but every choice, just even a look one direction or another, if I didn't feel things landed throughout me, it would register as fake. It would just look stupid. It would not be Maurice. It would not be the character. So I think that's the really interesting thing about performance capture work is, and especially as they've got better and better at it, more meticulous and more meticulous, then it requires the actor to really fully inhabit from the soul out, really. So the story of my study of orangutans and such is a much larger thing, and we can probably talk a little bit about that later if you like to. But it was intensive for me because I knew that that's where I had to go. Is I couldn't just find the movement. I couldn't just find how to climb, how to quadruped, how to, do all the things on a physical level. But I had to, from the inside out, know exactly where the psychology and the spirit of this character was. Now, that came to me most particularly from an orangutan named Tuan, who at the time lived at Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. And that is, as I say, it's a much larger story. But Tuan is also, in a bookend way, a part of this story, and always at the heart of all of my orangutan journeys.
I love that. We're gonna get you to do a little description of the cover of the book for folks. We'll bring the image up in a moment and talk through that, just for our friends who have no sight and partial sight to be able to see what that cover looks like and talk through that. And then maybe I have one more little setup question for you, and we'll get into some reading.
Sounds great.
Sound like a plan? So Rick, if you can bring up the book cover of On Constance. And then Karin. So this is the full, and then we'll get you maybe to zoom in pretty close on the image there, Rick. That's great.
So this is, pardon me, this is a photograph I took on Constance Street in New Orleans sometime midsummer. It is a brick wall. The brick is very, very old, and there is a curving arch of brick over the doorway. It's a blue door that is shaped like it would be a full oval if it went below the sidewalk, let's put it that way. And in this particular photo, though, for most of the times I saw the blue doors of the Children's Museum, these doors were closed, but this one day I came by and the door was open. So in this photograph, that is these old bricks of New Orleans in creams and oranges and deep burnt oranges and variegated colors from top to bottom of the wall. Then there, right in the middle of it, is this blue oval door with half of it open, and the sunlight is streaming in on part of a red door that is inside, leading to the interior of the building. And the day I came by and saw this, it quite took my breath away because, well, the door was open and it was rarely open, but also the way the sunlight was hitting there, it seemed to be like an invitation into a very special inner world. And the light hitting the door, it's actually hitting it with a shadow of, sort of a reverse shadow of the blue door on the lower part of it. So you can just see the silver doorknob, and then shadowing around it, the whole top part of the red door is in shadow and just the very bottom part. So it sort of gleams like this little reddy orange part of a sun almost. That's what it looks like to me. And there's just something about it. And when I came across it on that day and saw it, looking into it, it was just quite magical. And I never saw the door open like this again. I never did.
You got a rare moment in time.
I did.
Captured a rare moment in time. Thanks, Rick. You can pull the photo down. Karin, is there any way that you would like to set up this this reading tonight? Because this is the first time, again, that you did a live reading. I just such a joy, and I'm so excited about it. I'm trying not to let the hamster run too fast in my brain. But I'm wondering if there's anything you want to set up for the book before you start to read it, because we're gonna hear you read excerpts, and then we're gonna have little chats between the excerpts so that folks have an expectation of what they're going to hear tonight. But anything you want to do to set up?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I'd say to start with, and we'll probably talk more about this later, is that I've been thinking the last couple of days about this, how we go on these journeys. Sometimes journeys can be very small and it feels like, okay, well, that was really nothing. And then some journeys are incredibly exciting and monumental, and you really realize you've been on a journey. And then there's other journeys like this one that came to me that became the book that is On Constance, that the journey that I thought it might be turned out to be something else. And then even years later, looking back, I went, oh, wait a minute, that was something else. And then years later, I went, oh, wait a minute, that was something else. And there's just something about the journeys that we all go on in whatever prescribed space or a larger one that I hope that people will be invited to on for themselves. And I would like to start from actually just the beginning of the book. I'm going to read the opening chapter.
I'm going to let you do it. So I'm going to put my camera on, my mic and my...
Great. With a little quote that is on the page right before the first chapter begins. And that quote is, "The greatest revelation is stillness." Lao Tzu. 1. Readying. In April 2013, I boarded a train in Seattle, heading for New Orleans. There, I'd be joining cast and crew for the filming of the second in a trilogy of films. Everyone else was flying down. At the time, I didn't fly. So, the train. This story isn't about the film, though the fact that I was playing a mature male orangutan in it laid the path, in a way, for how my personal journey beyond the work would unfold. I'd always wanted to go to New Orleans. I can't remember why. It wasn't simply to experience the music and food, to walk Bourbon Street or go to Mardi Gras, or even to step into the history. It was something less nameable, perhaps just a sense or wish that it might be a magical place. Playing a mature male orangutan is a unique undertaking, aside from the obvious that it's a character of a different species and gender from my own. It seems to require a solitude beyond the work itself. It's true that in the wild they are largely solitary individuals, but I've played many solitary human characters that I step away from when wrap for the day is called on a film set or the curtain comes down on a stage performance. I value the return to self. I don't like to carry characters in my mind and energy 24 hours a day, but playing an orangutan, this was different. Through the filming of the first movie in the trilogy in Vancouver, I'd felt very much alone and lonely until I realized it came with the gig. Inhabiting the stillness and keen watchfulness of this orangutan character not only kept me in a different energetic space from the actors who were playing chimpanzees and gorillas, but it called on me to stay in that place full time. I still chatted with colleagues over lunch or at the craft services table, still enjoyed the people in my regular life, but with a part of me anchored in orangutan solitude for the duration of filming. seeing the world around me differently even. By the end of the first shoot, I finally relaxed and accepted this. Inside the watching, in fact, I didn't feel lonely at all. When the second film was coming up, for months before shooting began, I was readying my body for the physical challenges. I was also readying myself to step back into that place of watchful solitude. This time, I would embrace it from the start, let it lead me. I left home in Vancouver, BC for Seattle on a sunny day in April. I had with me a single large suitcase filled with just the essentials I felt I'd need for the next 4 months. The script in its massive binder, light clothing for what I'd been warned would be a sweltering New Orleans summer, some art supplies for my painting and drawing hobby, and 4 hula hoops, 2 smaller arm hoops and 2 larger collapsible ones. As part of my physical training for the film, besides yoga and weightlifting in the gym and quadrupedal walking and running on arm stilts in the park near home, I'd recently taken up hula hooping. I'm not sure how much it contributed to orangutan training beyond a certain core workout and a different way to build arm strength. Mostly, I just liked it. The feeling of the hoop circling on my arms and body, the fluidity of movement when I wasn't dropping them, which I often was, the sort of inward quiet spiraling place they sometimes took me to. They made me laugh at how inept I was. I doubted I'd ever be a good hooper, which didn't bother me in the slightest. They were fun. The only other things I brought were a camera and a notebook and pen. If I was going to be alone on this journey, I would watch and photograph and write. I wondered, in my personal time away from work, where would New Orleans lead me? What story would fill my notebook? Before catching the train in Seattle, I went to the zoo. I wanted to say a farewell to dear human friends who worked there and the 5 orangutans they cared for. This would be the longest time I'd be away from them since I'd begun to visit regularly 2 years earlier. Every 6 or 8 weeks at most, at least 3 full days per visit, and already at the 2-year mark, what I'd seen and experienced with this orangutan family could fill a book. One of the orangutans, Tawan, had been my inspiration for the role I was playing. His depth and quietude, keen observance and strength of spirit had not only given me the key to the character, but to think of Tawan at any point, on set or off, anchored me instantly. A constant friend across the ether, as it were, who I felt understood what I was doing better than anyone, as only a mature male orangutan could. I said a brief hello to 4 of the orangutans, Melati, Chinta, Bella, and Haran. Melati and I generally spent several hours a day together during my visits, painting. Me on one side of the window with paper and paint, her on the other side choosing colors and banging on the window when she wished me to change them. As I arrived, she came right to the window, ready for painting to begin. When I didn't instantly get to it, she was incensed. She pounded the window with her fist and pointed for me to sit down. My stomach sank as I shook my head no, blew her a kiss, and slipped away. The coming absence would be close to 4 months. I already missed her, not even having left yet. I was taken for a rare private visit with Tawan. As always, I put on a face mask, sterilized my shoes on a mat, then was led through a door to the back area of the indoor habitat. It was a lovely day, and Tawan was outside in the trees. He came when called and right to the mesh to visit. We looked into each other. My keeper friend explained to him in words that I was going away on a long trip. I made a circling gesture with my index fingers to suggest how long it would be before I came back. I'd gotten into the habit of this pidgin sign language with the orangutans when leaving at any point, whether for a bathroom break or lunch or at the end of a visit, to let them know when I'd return. A 2-finger gesture from my eyes to theirs to say, see you, then the circling index fingers to suggest a space of time, followed by 2 fingers up for 2 minutes, meaning a short break, or a bite of invisible food to suggest I was just leaving for lunch, or at the very end of a 3-day visit, a bye-bye wave. to let them know it would be weeks before I'd be back. Who could say if they understood? Today, as I write this, 9 years later and a lot more water under the bridge between us, I'm certain that they do. So I circled and circled my index fingers round each other to Tawan and stretched my hands wide to increase the distance between them, as I told him in words the great length of time I'd be away, how far away I was going, and how much I would miss him. I asked if he'd give me a gift. I asked this in words from behind my mask, no gesture. I wasn't expecting an actual thing, more asking for his blessing in a way. Tawan stared into me for a long beat, then reached behind himself and fiddled with something. He held it up. A piece of straw. My friend nodded that he could give it to me. Tawan passed it carefully through the mesh. I put it in the shirt pocket over my heart and pressed my hand to the pocket, thanking him. One more long beat of looking into each other, then the bye-bye wave, and I headed for the train with my big suitcase holding the script, summer clothing, art supplies, and hula hoops, my camera and notebook and pen at the ready for the journey to begin.
That was chapter 1.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I had the privilege of listening to the audiobook, and it's nice to revisit it. It's just been a couple of weeks for me since I've listened to it. So I guess I got so many questions, and they probably are going to come out in all sorts of different orders. But I guess one of the things that I'd love to establish is, when you arrived, you said that there were four orangutans that you had greeted.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, this is just like a total, I guess, ape hierarchy question. But is there a hierarchy in there between these four? And did you build different relationships with them? Were they jealous of each other? I'm curious.
Well, Tawan and his daughter Bella lived at the time on they had their own habitat. They have an indoor habitat and a whole outdoor habitat, and then bedrooms downstairs in the works. It's quite an incredible space they have there. On the other side, Malati, and who is the mother of Bella, and Chinta, Tawan's twin sister, and Haran, who is Malati and Tawan's son. So mature males need to live in separate areas.
Wow.
So that's really the only, I mean, there are internal hierarchies that develop for sure. But at the time, Malati and Chinta and Haran lived on one side, and Tawan and his daughter Bella lived on the other. And yes, I have developed different relationships with all of them over the years. Tawan I met first in 2010. But over time, once I'd begun to visit regularly, and Malati, who loves to direct painting, and would invite me over. No, she didn't invite, she demanded, actually. I think it was in January of 2012 when I was on my second visit there, and I was painting for Tawan, and I heard this pounding on a window, and I thought, what is that? And I looked, and there was Malati at the window just banging and going, come here, come in. She's just literally gesturing like, come here right now, right now, right now. So I had to sort of excuse myself from Tawan and go over. I thought and I had my paints with me because I was painting for Tawan, which is where the painting conversation began. And I went over there, and as soon as I got there, then Chinta swung in and Haran swung in, and the next thing, Chinta's going like, hold the canvas up so I can see better, and Haran's like, so, and this basically has gone on since then. It's been a very long relationship. So they're each very different, and that story in and of itself would fill an entire book. But they generally, the mature males are living in separate habitats, and that's the major thing, because in the wild, the mature males are solitary, and the females, orangutans, they don't live in communities like gorillas and chimpanzees. They only live on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra, and they have to travel quite a ways and a range to follow fruit in season. They're basically frugivorous. So, and they also have the capacity to remember the location and blooming times or fruiting times of, I think, something like 300 different fruits. So they're incredibly, yeah. So they and the mothers raise their children for up to 9 years each. So so they may come together in groups at a particular feeding time when a fruit is in season or such, but they generally travel solitary through the jungle, the mothers with their children and the males separately.
So it's like there's so much there, and there's a lot of richness to this content. And I, don't know a lot about this world. Obviously, you know an immense amount. I mean, you've done work with Goodall, right? Like
no, I have not done. No, I have
Well,
not done any work with. No, I have not. No, let's
okay.
be really clear about that. I have not done any work with Jane Goodall. The only thing that I have done was I was asked by the Goodall Institute to write a piece about my discovery, my learning process to portray Maurice, and that is on their site. But I've never met Jane Goodall, and we've never and I do call myself, I feel quite strongly about this, I am a student of orangutans. Like, I'm a lifetime student, and I do everything I can to support the efforts of people who are genuinely working in the field for their conservation at rescue sanctuaries and such. But anyway, I'm a student. That's what I call it. I'm a student of orangutans, an avid one, an absolutely avid one, but I have so much to learn, and it will be ceaseless. Did
you have this same desire to be a student of this particular species before the opportunity to play Maurice, or is this kind of a springboard into this world?
No, it was a magical occurrence because no, I'd actually had no familiarity with great apes of any species, really. And then when this came up, I'll never forget the day I before the audition for Maurice in particular. I previously auditioned as a chimpanzee, and then I was asked to come back as an orangutan. And I went up the block to Joe Forte's library on Denman Street here, and I'll never forget pulling out the book. I was sort of going like, okay, orangutan. And I pulled the book off the shelf, and it was a children's book in the children's section, and the picture on the cover was of a mother orangutan and her child, and my jaw fell open, and it was it's one of those moments where you go, I have to know more. I have to step further into this world. I don't know where it's going to lead me. And that proved, of course, to be well beyond the films and into a life of its own.
Is it possible for you to be able to just share with us what the difference might be between like a chimpanzee and orangutan? Again, I know that for folks who can see the difference, that makes sense, but for folks who have never been able to see the difference?
There's like,
of course, there's a bunch of great apes. Yeah.
No, but there's chimpanzees are the closest to humans. I believe that branch off happened about 7 million years ago is the current thinking. Orangutans branched off first, apparently about 14 million years ago. And they live only in Borneo and Sumatra. The chimpanzees and gorillas are in Africa. They live in communities, both gorillas and chimpanzees. I don't know very much about chimpanzees. I've met a couple. I have met some gorillas. The silverback gorillas are huge, and they are the patriarch of the family, and the gorilla families live together like that with the patriarch and then the females and the children all together. So that's just a very basic thing. I know that chimpanzees also live in community, but I can't speak any more to that because I haven't spent any time observing that. I do know that in terms of physical differences, orangutans have both their hands and their feet function the same. Like they can grab just about anything with a foot, with a hand. It doesn't matter which. They're completely yogic that way. And when they walk, it's not flat-footed. It's sort of more on the sides of their feet fists. Gorillas do walk with a flat foot. Like a flat foot thing. Silverbacks have an amazing arch in their back as they go. And orangutans tend to do more side quadrupeding, like moving off to the side and such. They have enormous orangutan. I don't know about the particular strength of gorillas, but I know orangutans, their arm strength is such that I once heard that a mature male orangutan has the strength to break a crocodile in two. I remember reading that in one of the books I read early on. I don't know. I couldn't go back to cite that reference, so I believe it was in one of the first. I don't want to quote which book it was, but I was about to say,
for sure. Wow.
But it is astonishing. Yeah, their strength is astonishing.
Wow. I mean, these may seem like technical details, because one of the other thing that you had read was about wearing the masks, and a part of me, when I first heard it, I was like, not COVID time, and I was wondering why. Yeah, I was wondering why the masks. In terms of, I'm guessing it's a protection thing, but it's even more interesting to me when you talk about the fact that you asked for a gift behind the mask, and the fact that the language piece was understood as opposed to like what was maybe on your facial expression, right?
Yeah, he couldn't even read my lips at that time.
Yeah.
As a visitor getting a privilege of a behind the scenes visit like that, as I said in the book, we would always wear a mask to keep our germs from the orangutans, even though we'd never be in the exact same space anyways, and sterilize our shoes on a mat with a special sterile thing, so you wouldn't walk anything into the behind scenes area.
Right.
And also there would be distance. Always an observed distance, so like that. But the mask is for the protection of the great apes.
And then what was the journey like, the process like, the initiation of, because I can't imagine you can just walk into some place and say, hey, I'd like a behind the scenes, like I like to.
Oh no.
So what was that? How did you breach that? Was that set up for you? Did you seek that? I'm so curious how that happened.
As I say, this is we're getting into a place that is like it's a book in itself, the whole journey with the orangutans. But in brief, what happened is that after the Rise of the Planet of the Apes had opened, they learned at Woodland Park Zoo that I had based Maurice, my character, on Tawan, and they sent an email to me asking if I would like a personal introduction. And that was really the beginning of the larger journey for me with everyone at with the gang at Woodland Park Zoo.
Very cool. And then the other thing that you started this chapter off with was with the quote about stillness. Such a beautiful quote, and I would love for you to just share about what stillness at this beginning of this. We're at the beginning of the journey with you at this chapter, right? But how stillness resonates for you and as a part of maybe the overall theme of the work.
I'd like to talk about that probably in a little while once we've gotten
let's I'll make a note of it.
I put the reason I have that quote at the beginning of the book is I wanted to put that question in the reader's mind. What does that mean? And I'd really actually like people to hold on to that question until they get to the end of the book, because I think it's an inside piece of it that I really wouldn't care to fully describe. But I will show you something that I found yesterday to my own astonishment. Is I left with a camera and a notebook and pen. And yesterday, to my astonishment, I hadn't seen it in 7 years, but I found a notebook in my, this was the notebook that I was carrying on the train. And I actually started to peek through it yesterday and realized I hadn't looked at it in at least 7 years. And there was everything, every moment from, including, the map of New Orleans and everything. But anyway, so this is the notebook I set out with. That was my friend on my solitary journey.
Are there any empty pages in that notebook?
No, there's no empty pages, and there's a second one, and then there's a third one as well.
Wow,
because of the 4 months. But anyways, some of the pieces in the book are pretty much verbatim from the original notebook, and that just blew me away. Actually, it quite blew me away. But in any case, when you think about stillness, I'd rather not address just yet, but there is something about having to go on a journey in solitude. And a lot of us have had to do that in so many ways. A lot of us have to do that all the time as well. But in so many ways, we've all had to go on so many individual journeys of solitude over the last couple of years in particular, prescribed solitude. And there's something about that, and then when you have, like, you go, okay, well, what am I taking with me on my little journey? And it becomes a journey inwards in a way, even if you are traveling. And so I treasure this little notebook just to have found it again and go, yeah, this was my friend for this, and then followed by the second one and the third one for the next 4 months. And as I said in the first chapter as well, the playing an orangutan requires staying inside this solitude throughout. So that continued to be a part of my whole journey into New Orleans. And there's something about that when you have to stay in that place, stay in this place of solitude. Not that you could even be around people, but there's still, you need to sort of stay within this space that can open doors to some really interesting places.
All right. I'm going to put a pin in that and we can revisit that later. Are you ready to share excerpt number 2?
Sure. So after there's a quite a lengthy train ride that follows me getting on the train in the first chapter, 72 hours worth. It was quite amazing. And then I arrived in New Orleans and we began filming, and it was hot and it was really challenging work. And of course, I don't write about that stuff, but so I would say that for the first couple of weeks that I was there, I did go looking around, and I had said that I'd always thought that there would be a magic in New Orleans, like there would be something magical there. And for the first couple of weeks, what I felt was the work is hard. It's suffocatingly hot, like it's just unbearable in that way. And I was, moving about the city in a way where I was looking at things, but I was trying to be very well behaved as well and just stay on the beaten path. New Orleans is not necessarily a terribly safe city, and they recommend that you stay on the tourist path. And after a couple of weeks in, I felt like I was trapped. I don't know how else to put it, but I just felt like I was trapped, and the suffocating heat didn't really help much with that. So this is a piece from the 4th chapter, mid-May, where I was reaching that point, and then I met my first friend. Before I came here, I was given 3 rules for a successful visit by people who knew New Orleans. 1, don't go in summer. 2, stay a week or 2 at most. 3, if you're a woman alone, don't venture off the tourist path. I look left to the brown Mississippi, right to the crowds of tourists in the quarter. A tightness creeps into my chest, not helped by the suffocating moist heat. I've broken the first 2 rules for a successful visit. I don't yet know how, but I'm going to have to start breaking the 3rd. A few days later, I make my way back to the orangutans. Burani stares past me as if I don't exist. I realize there's no special friendship coming. I watch a small lizard exploring the base of a tree. He looks up, pops out his throat sac. There's a tingle at the back of my neck, the sense of something behind me. A gorilla in the enclosure across from the orangutans, sitting on a stone shelf staring at me through the fence. I get up, walk one way past the people watching him, then all the way back the other. His eyes follow me. I get out my iPhone, Google name of silverback gorilla at Audubon Zoo. Casey. When the crowds leave, I approach the fence. Name Karin, I say, my hand to my chest. I take off my hat, offer him a bow. You, Casey. Nice to meet you. I speak and sign to him in the same made-up pigeon sign language I use with my orangutan friends back in Seattle. Casey looks away, back to me. He sniffs the air, deeply. He settles himself on the stone shelf, his eyes holding mine. Back at the hotel, it's dusk before 8 o'clock, darkness soon after. At 10, the jazz music piped into the hotel patio since 9 this morning shuts off, and most people go to bed. As I've begun doing almost every night, I grab my arm hoops and a bottle of water and head down. The soft mat of the tennis court is still hot to the touch, the air roasting. I haven't twirled a hoop yet, already pouring sweat. I began hooping last September. I'm still wondering exactly what it is about it that holds my attention. Besides the exercise and fun of it, the fun of finding a circus trick, the relaxed and meditative focus it asks while still allowing me to do something. I practice arm circles to the side, overhead and under, hand changes, tosses, rolls over the backs of my hands. Dropping the hoops over and over again, it seems impossible to sustain a flow. Edgar, the security guard, comes out, watches for a moment, carries on with his rounds. I keep practicing and dropping hoops, reminding myself that nobody cares if I'm good at it or not. Really, it doesn't matter. It has no obvious worth in my life. The thought stops me for a second. Then I continue practicing, dropping hoops. Perhaps the lack of importance is why I love it most. At midnight, I retreat to the windowless white room and an ice-cold shower, somehow more myself. I go back to see Casey the next day. He notes me immediately. His eyes follow as I go to sit on the bench in the shade of the tree. A family joins me on the bench. Their curly-haired toddler climbs onto my back and clasps her hands round my neck. "Ray Ray," gasps her mother. "Come to your mama. Leave that lady alone." "I don't mind," I say. Ray Ray plays with my shirt collar. Casey watches. Suddenly, there's an unholy noise and 3 F-16 fighter jets pass by overhead. The gorillas go nuts, racing round the enclosure. I decide to walk the whole way back to the warehouse district along Magazine Street. It's a few miles. Along the way, I find Cafe Luna in a tumbling down mansion at the corner of Nashville and Magazine. Dog-eared books over the fireplace, everything from medical texts to romance novels. And, as I'll soon learn, a ponytailed barista who doesn't mind if you sit for hours on his sloping porch, sipping a coffee, watching lizards dart between the tables. You can feel it right away. A place to breathe, think, write. The next day, I bring my hoops along, take the St. Charles streetcar up to the other side of Audubon Park, walk the mile through it to the zoo. It hits me how much I miss the smell of green. At home, I live near a large park, and while the warehouse district is rich in bricks and history, there's not much green. I stop beside the bayou to practice higher and higher tosses and catches with my hoops under the trees. A turtle watches me from a rock, then something with a flat head peeks out of the water, circles briefly, disappears again. Casey is at the ready when I arrive. As I sit on the shaded bench, he moves immediately to his stone-shelf seat with its rock shade overhang and gazes steadily at me, sniffing the air. I've had the chance to get to know a few gorillas, but I've never known one to stare at me like this, much less be okay with me staring right back. It's blazing hot this afternoon, no other visitors at the moment, and all the other gorillas off sleeping somewhere. Same with the orangutans in the enclosure behind me. Casey and I sit together in some kind of shared solitude, holding each other's eyes. I wonder where this is heading. After visiting with Casey, I'm about to hop on the number 11 bus back down Magazine when I see a bus heading the opposite direction. Who knows where? I cross the street and get on it. After 10 minutes or so, it turns past a village center. There's a crowd lined up under a big sign, 30th anniversary sale, 2 for 1. I get off the bus and join the crowd. What are we lining up for? 3 large women in big hats turn to stare at me. "Daiquiris, hun. What else? 2 for 1 takeout, any size." When we get to the front of the line, the 3 ladies order quart size, 2 each. I look at the rainbow of alcoholic flavors swirling in chillers on the wall, ask for a small of whatever's the least sweet, and "Just 1, please." I'm given 2. The big ladies swilling their quarts two-fisted are happy to take the other one off my hands and ask, do I know that the Dalai Lama is in town? I don't know this. But as I hop back on a bus carrying a cocktail onto it for the first time in my life and feeling quite merry, it starts to seem like a good idea to find him. To my astonishment, I find the Dalai Lama a mere block from my hotel. But the security guard who stands in front of me with crossed arms says, I'm too late. The event is sold out and almost over. Dejected, I wander back down to the main floor of the convention center. There's a group of people clustered around a roped-off area. Others sit about meditating. I don't want to meditate. I want to see the Dalai Lama, or at least one of the Tibetan monks I've learned are here with him. Supposedly, they've been crafting a mandala out of individual grains of colored sand for the past 3 days. Now, where the hell is it? A space opens up by the roped-off area. I step into it and gasp. There it is. The sand mandala. It's exquisite. 3 feet across and more intricate than I could possibly have imagined. We all stand silent, staring at it. An hour later, the Tibetan monks arrive. They perform a chant over the mandala. The sound is unearthly. Then it comes time for them to destroy their work, sweep the sand mandala into little bags. I didn't know this was coming, and the seemingly effortless destruction of their creation knocks me back like a hit to the chest. I close my eyes, can't watch. More and more people have gathered. By the time the Tibetan monks are leaving with their bags of sand, 1,000 or so of us follow them into the street. Where are we going and why? I have no clue, but I don't want to ask. A heavy police presence surrounds us, perhaps the tragedy of the Mother's Day second line parade still fresh in mind. Our procession makes its way to Mardi Gras World, through the warehouse where the floats are stored. It's more than a little strange, following the bobbing orange headdresses of the monks past 10-foot-tall princesses and tuxedo-clad bunnies, superheroes and gold statues of Buddha, and all manner of other frozen-faced things. The monks' chant echoes through the space. We make our way to the Mississippi River, where the 1,000 or so of us stand witness as the monks scatter the remains of their sand mandala into the brown water rolling by, to send healing energy into the world. I make my way slowly back to my windowless white room and eat a sandwich.
It's a real, feels like a juxtaposition to me after seeing something. So, like you say, you were not prepared to see the destruction of the mandala, and then just to eat a sandwich. What can you tell me about how you were feeling in that? Like, and that's gonna be really surreal, but I wonder if there's something more in that moment. Because even the way you read that moment, Karin, was.
Well, I think that's just it, because it was so amazing. And if anyone's ever seen or the size of a sand mandala or one of these things completed, it is so stunning. It leaves you speechless. And to wind up there, especially basically having been guided there by ladies in hats, slurping their quart, was astonishing to get and to find that this was like right there, like a block from my hotel. Yeah. And to see this, and then I didn't know that they were going to destroy it. I didn't know that that's what that you would do, spend 3 days, literally the meticulousness and the detail of the sand mandala. And then to follow along, and then I guess all I can say is, what else can you do but go back and eat a sandwich, you know?
But I imagine, I mean, because I've never experienced anything like that, but I imagine life's not really the same. You know what I mean? Like, I see so many other things to contemplate, and then that's like the idea of the sandwich for me is like, and now what? Like,
yeah, actually, that's a great way of putting it, Amy, because, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to read that passage, because it really was from the place where I felt so trapped, and then I went, I'm going off tourist path now. And I didn't know what that meant. It was just an intention to step off. And this was the beginning of that journey into the New Orleans that became my New Orleans, and developed from there, and meeting Casey. And it just sort of stepped off from there. So that's why I wanted to read that piece from chapter 4, because it was sort of a magical turning, for sure.
It feels, I mean, I've not ever been to New Orleans either. But you see it on movies all the time, and you hear about it on TV, about the sort of the chaotic party lifestyle, as you said, kind of can be kind of dangerous. And then to have something like this, the Dalai Lama there, with this stillness and this, this place of contemplation and this place of offering.
And then that moving all the way through Mardi Gras world,
Yeah.
because you can take tours through Mardi Gras world, but I think it's a singular occasion where the Dalai Lama's monks were leading a chant going through Mardi Gras world to the Mississippi River to dispense the healing energy into the world. I mean, who could have thought? I know that as I said at the beginning of that, the people who I've heard from who knew New Orleans and had been there to visit had said, you don't go in summer, and a week or two at most, because this is what you can see. And we were there for 4 months, and that's why I could feel pretty soon early on. I went, no, this is okay, but I need to go somewhere else in my soul, and I don't know what that means. And it didn't actually mean traveling to, it wasn't like doing something wild. It was literally like just opening a door in my mind to go, okay, what else is here, and where might that lead me? Hopping on that bus to go into a direction I had no clue where I was going on that day at the zoo was, one of the first choices I made to go, all right, let's see what New Orleans can show me. And I know that, you hear about people going there, and there's Bourbon Street and getting drunk on swamp water and hurricanes and all that stuff. And bizarrely enough, I think I spent one evening in 4 months on Bourbon Street. That's it. And my journey took me to other places. And there's the music of New Orleans is incredible. The food is incredible. There's something more to it that obviously is the destination of the book. That is what drew me on. And I never knew from one day to the next where something was going to pull me to.
Yeah, kind of want to sit with that for a minute. Something really interesting to that, because I can imagine, it's more than just, I don't have another word for other than cabin fever, but like, because you talk about being stuck, right? This idea that you have your hotel, and you're a couple of blocks within that hotel that really is your advised where you're supposed to stay.
But basically, like, we were in the warehouse district, and it was like, you can walk down 6 blocks to the quarter, but and then but don't be in the quarter alone at night and all this stuff. And it was, so no, it was like, okay, then where can I, what can I? And so I just sort of followed my nose from there. And I believe that it feels to me like, I realized this by the end of my time there, and the end of that journey, that New Orleans pulled me into places where and into experiences, subtle experiences, that were things that were the gift to me, things that I needed to learn and stuff like that. But that's not, so my experience moving into the city is mine, and everyone's going to have a unique experience going there, that's for sure. So anyways, it's but this is a very subtle being pulled into a very special place. And by place, I don't even mean location.
Yeah. I guess my question was, and it may sound simple, but was there this sense of trepidation or fear?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't take my camera out onto the streets for the first 3 weeks, until after this point. It was after this time that I took my camera out for the very first time. I didn't look at a map on a street. I didn't actually even really look at a map, but I didn't want to be walking around looking like a tourist at any point. And that was not a bad choice. It was actually a really good choice. Yeah.
Have you been back there since all of this?
Yeah, well, yes, I have, but we'll leave that for
Later.
that also becomes part of the book, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay, so then this is what I think we should do, Karin, is we should have you read the final excerpt then, because then
Yeah,
we can talk about all of these things where my hamster brain wants to talk about them now.
sure.
If we read through all of them, then we can talk about all
Yeah,
the themes in the book. So I will leave it to you, my friend.
thank you. So as I was just saying, there was something about like I didn't get my camera out on the streets of New Orleans until sometime in late May. And when I began to do that, when I began to walk around and see things with it, take pictures, but I was like drawn to this or to that or to the next thing. And it wasn't anything in particular. It could be just like bricks or I don't know, a crack in a sidewalk. Um, that sort of pulled me deeper and deeper into this place. And as I say, when I say place, I don't just mean the city of New Orleans, but whatever spirit it holds. So this next segment is from the 6th chapter, June. And just before I meet my next friend, as I'm really sort of spiraling in, I think would be the best way to describe it, to the heart of the city as I came to know it. Like puzzle pieces slipping out of a crack in a box, in random order and with no obvious pattern forming yet, New Orleans gains substance for me. I find it on the St. Charles streetcar, watching a waiter on his way to work, nodding to music on his iPod, a freshly pressed white apron over one knee. I find it in the cockroaches as big as peanuts that have begun to prowl the patio, the tiny green lizards climbing the walls, the whistle bell tones of cicadas at night. I find it in the drivers on the number 11 Bus Up magazine who greet me like a local now and chat about stuff. Traffic tie-ups, weather, what they're doing after work. Remember when such and such restaurant was called so-and-so? Oh, no, I don't. Well, that was 15 years ago. I have a hard time remembering that far back too. I find New Orleans in the tumbling down old mansion that is now my library because I have a card. In the book on Hurricane Katrina I'm reading, and the images I can't imagine seeing, bodies floating down the street, police holed up in the pharmaceutical department of the very same Walmart I shopped at, sheer hell at the Superdome. I find it at a garage sale on a Saturday morning, in a woman yelling at me across the street on a Wednesday night. What you up to this evening? You want to come judge a poetry competition? I find New Orleans in the neighborhood village of Ferret at the Bloomingdale's second-hand store, and in the blocks I walked along Napoleon to get there. Nice house, nice house, nice house, broken down house, nice house, overgrown lot, mansion. I find it in the impromptu mayhem of a second-line parade party that wasn't there when I got off the streetcar at this corner 3 hours ago. Now there are hundreds of people dancing on the tracks. The streetcar isn't going anywhere. I can stand frustrated and wait for them to leave or dance along with them for another mile when they do. I choose to join them and dance. I find New Orleans at PJ's Coffee at Gerard and Julia, where I sit outside on Sunday mornings, pouring sweat. The bells at the 200-year-old cathedral up the block ring out. Tiny birds hover begging sesame seeds for my bagel. I find it at Carmo's Cafe, where on the hottest of all days, lugging water home from Rouse's, a woman makes me a hydrating smoothie from exotic fruits I've never heard of. I find New Orleans in the lugging of water, 6 blocks in the searing noonday sun, the air thick as butter. I find it in the toothless woman at the Shell station who sells me bottles of juice, in the Italian joint across the street where Stephanie, who is not remotely Italian, remembers my name from one visit, 2 weeks until the next. Maybe most happily, I find New Orleans in the pictures I've been taking, often of the smallest things. A crack in the sidewalk, zippers from 1948 still on sale in Clement's Hardware, a man's tie on a drain pipe on Julia Street. I find New Orleans in Casey the Gorilla's face. I find it in my windowless white room, which I have learned in 1822 was St. Mary's Market, the same bricks now painted white. I find it in Edgar the security guard, Leslie and Miss Claudia at the front desk, who always ask to hear about my day and celebrate my finds. Dwayne, who calls me Miss Karin and brings kitchen towels every week when every week the housekeeper forgets. I find New Orleans in the nameless boy who continues to rush at me with pieces of flowers. Hello, my friend. This is for you. The fifth time this happens, I see the Velcro straps on his shoes flapping as he runs. When I point this out to him, it's because they're broken, he says. I smile at him. May I? He watches intently as I kneel down and do up his shoes. When I sit back up in my chair, he considers me for a moment. Do you know bad piggies? No, I don't. You need a 1-shooter or a 2-shooter? I see. He considers me another long moment. Soon, I will show you how to play. On a sweltering Saturday morning in PJ's Coffee, they're playing Astor Piazzolla tangos. The Argentinian tangos are somehow perfect for the heat. At the farmer's market, I take pictures of the pecan lady with her pecans, the Creole tomato lady with her tomatoes. I make my way to the library again. Then on the streetcar home, a grown man in a cowboy hat sort of rides a small toy horse. He bought it at a garage sale, he says. He seems quite proud of it. He stays at the front of the streetcar and makes the horse whinny at every passenger who gets on or off. Back at the hotel patio, my nameless young friend appears. He stares at a man sitting beside me. You're in my seat, he says. The man gets up and moves. My friend takes his chair and studies me. What's your name? He asks. Karin. What's yours? Elijah. Do you know Super Mario? No, I say. Okay, he says. Now we play. His hands begin to trace the progress of an imaginary computer game in the air between us. He tells me when we've won a game, when we go to the next level. When his father calls to him, he races to pick a tiny purple flower and brings it to me. He runs off. Upstairs, I look at my completely unused living room alcove with its window curtains still drawn shut since the day I arrived. A surprising thought. Remove the furniture. Half an hour later of tugging and hefting, I call the front desk. 2 strong men, and 15 more minutes later, the couch and its 2 pieces is stored in a closet down the hall. My yoga mat, weights, hoops, and pictures of my Seattle orangutan friends now edge the walls. I step into the empty space. 6 weeks into my stay here, I'll begin to occupy it. That's sweet, Rick.
Oh, we always love our applause. That was beautiful.
It was nice of Rick.
I love this theme of this particular part of the book where you talk about I find New Orleans in. There's a real power. When I listened to it the first time, I felt the power of observation, if that makes sense, because you were seeing things that I don't know. This sounds silly to say that I wouldn't see because I don't see, but literally don't see. But like that you're finding such beauty in such everyday things and such in such interesting places and like holding that so dear. And I wonder if you can talk a bit about that.
It's part of it is something that I've always done myself, which is I'm drawn to details and small things and beauty in surprising places where you just go, oh, but you can see that. And I do feel, and it's one of the things that is part of the orangutan spirit of that's behind the book. I would almost call this an orangutan-inspired journey to Constance Street, to a street in New Orleans. there's something about, and what I've learned from orangutans over the time I've known them is their deeply observant nature. And it's not, and so in my experience of New Orleans, while I was seeing these things and photographing them, it actually, you asking that question actually leads to what I eventually felt was it was a deeper seeing that meant that there's a reason I didn't actually even include photographs in the book, because when I realized that it was the moment of the photographs, the moment of the experience of seeing them, that comes up a lot in the book, but still, that was the treasure of it, the visceral experience. And there's something about almost like not just our physical vision, but how and where are we called to a deeper inner vision? Do you know what I mean? Like where that wakes up, and that becomes, and that can be a kinetic sensing of things in all kinds of different ways, and where the experience becomes something of substance that is far deeper than that. And that's far deeper than, say, going, oh, look, that's an interesting picture there. So each of these moments of seeing these things, I felt like I experienced on a level that was, I know it made me start to sound kind of flaky, but I don't mean it in that way. It was as the city of New Orleans pulled me into a place where I literally felt that the bricks of the city literally were reaching me on whatever level. And that is not on me, but I honestly feel that's actually a part of the character of New Orleans. So it's like, if I had three very special friends on this journey, obviously Casey is one, Elijah became another, but the character of the city of New Orleans is that third friend and overarching friend. So, and where it pulled me to, which is the story of the book and the rest of the book, then, is to a very, very simple place. And I feel like New Orleans there is something literally in the buildings there, in the bricks, in the I don't know what to say, like it's in the air, even in that suffocating moist heat in the summer, that feels like, can feel like a vice grip. And then as you relax into that, accept it, I guess, for lack of a better word, where you're not fighting against it anymore. You go, okay, I'm here. This is where I am. And then that somehow leads to the place where the real magic begins, the
So
deeper magic of New Orleans.
that advice then that you were given originally, which was you only need to stay 2 weeks. Because that's all
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and so if somebody were to ask you the same thing, I mean, I'm sure I could already guess what the advice would be, right? Like, 2 weeks is not enough time to be able to have been pulled into places and to let
Oh,
yourself
I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, I
know.
don't know, because for each of us, it could be different. In terms of experience of New Orleans, I mean, there's people, like people who could write and tell about this city in ways that I could who actually really deeply know this city and love the city. I know people who've lived there their entire lives, or have lived there for a very much huge part of their lives and then left, and then but it has the kind of spirit that it doesn't let you go. And I would say I'm one of the lucky people who got to be there for 4 months and feel some element of that. But I think, and ultimately, well, I hope, and certainly for people who haven't been to New Orleans, and if they would enjoy getting to know it a little bit through my, albeit unique journey that is unique to me and this particular time and place. But I'm hope for me, the book and the journey of this, that I hope other people who read it would feel inspired to, is to look at, going back to what you said about these small things that you suddenly see, you actually really see it or feel it. And when I say see it, as I say, I'm not talking about just literally visually being able to see something, but in that moment where you stop long enough, you are in stillness long enough to actually land and go,
Yeah.
connect with something in whatever way you do, whether it's through hearing or just, for me, being in certain locations in New Orleans, being in a particular location ultimately, and realizing that it's that place of stillness, and that can be like, and just being present, like totally there with the smallest of things, with things that just don't look like they're too many bells and whistles. It's not impressive stuff. It could be an almost nothing place in New Orleans or anywhere else, where you can find magic and a starting place, like literally a starting place. And I think it's something that this is one of the reasons I did the book ultimately, because I went, I had felt for the longest time that this was a small story unique to me, and like, right, okay, so this and that and blah, blah, blah. And like, who's going to want to read this? It was only when I came back to it after we'd been through the time in lockdown, all of us, for, a year or so. And yeah, about a year into that, year and a half into that. And suddenly I went back and went, oh my goodness, there is the journey and the place that this goes to, that this went to. I didn't even fully understand until this moment. And I don't feel it would have been possible even to fully see it until going through the prescribed lockdown and isolation of the last couple of years, and the requisite stillness in a way that called one to. And one can fight against the stillness, one can fight against the, oh, let me out of here. Or if you go to that place of, all right, this is where I am. And then I went back and I looked at this and I went, well, for goodness sake, where did this journey ultimately take me? What was New Orleans teaching me that has been such a beautiful gift to have with me for these past couple of years? So ultimately, that's what I hope, whether it's for New Orleans or anywhere else, that for anyone listening to this, anyone who reads the book, I started by saying early on about there's different kinds of journeys, and there can be journeys that are clearly like, oh, wow, that was exciting. It's a very amazing trip to wherever, this or that. And there can be journeys that are like, well, nothing much happened there, whatever. And then there can be, the journeys where we don't expect to find journeys, like when we actually are, the journeys that are possible from a place of stillness, or when you literally can't move too much outside the space that you're in. And they're all valid. And I think, but I feel now too, that the really valuable ones, the ones that, give you air to move forward with, are the ones that draw you to, or bring you to, or having to deal with this stillness and possibly solitude. So you go, all right, I'm just here. And then things can go from amazing things can transform and move forward from there. So I wish that for everyone, that that on some level, that the book resonates on that level, as much as, it would be nice as a travel memoir of New Orleans, which is not quite what I'd ever, if I felt it was a travel, I would have gone, no, I don't think we're gonna make this book, because there's many other people who could do much more astonishing travel memoirs of New Orleans, and this is a very unique journey through it, a very personal journey. And I hope it calls out to people who, it's an invitation to go to that quiet magic place, where we stop looking for the bells and whistles and everything, and we go, with the magic of right here, right now, and move forward from there.
Before I ask any more questions, I want to make sure that folks in our audience know that if they have questions for Karin, if they want to share reflections of what they've heard tonight, I encourage you to use the raise your hand function. That'll be the most accessible way for me, and I can call on you to have your voice heard. You can also pop some stuff in the chat if you would be more comfortable doing that. And we do a prize draw every night, folks, but tonight's going to be different. But I know some folks are joining us from time zones in the future and tend to leave a little bit early, but know that we're going to circulate an email because there's 6 audiobooks, 3 of which have been generously donated to us tonight by Post Hypnotic Press, and 3 that VocalEye is going to contribute. And Karin has a beautiful paperback book that she has signed with a beautiful bookmark. So we're going to circulate an email, and folks can email VocalEye after this event to be entered into that draw for those special gifts. And of course, just so we know, if you want to just purchase a copy, you don't want to wait to hear if you've won the draw. Post Hypnotic Press is going to offer 15% off until the 19th of February. And I know before we go into further questions, Karin, there's a significance to the 19th of February, which kind of like the universe, all the things came together in the universe. You want to just talk about that?
No, it's just
because I thought it was cool when you shared it.
Yeah, it was. It just happened to be Tawan's birthday.
Yeah.
Tawan is no longer with us, but it was Tawan and Chinta's birthday, February 19th. So a lot of yeah. So and his son Haran, and then eventually young Godek, who moved to Woodland Park Zoo after Tawan passed away. It's the 19th is all their birthdays, which is kind of cool. What I just want to because Post Hypnotic Press has I think it's just wonderful what Carlin and Carl and Ken and Jenny are doing over there in support of the book and their generosity with this. I really wanted to shout out to them personally. And also I want to say a big thank you to Adam Henderson at Aardvark Audiobooks, who I recorded the book with. And it was an absolute joy recording with Adam there. It was like a dream come true for me to, as I say, I'd always wanted to do this. So I just wanted to shout out to them all, and Post Hypnotic Press, and they've got a wonderful, there's lots of other audiobooks there that you should check out. They're, anyways, they are an amazing group of people, an amazing company. I'm so glad to have their support behind On Constance.
Yeah, we got a couple of hands, so we're gonna get to those, and I just wanted to
Sure.
Ask just as you're talking about this journey of recording the book, because if I can encourage anybody to purchase this particular book and other books, but this particular book, I actually felt like I was with you on this journey. The way you read it, I felt like I was there. And I listen to audiobooks now as opposed to reading books, because that is my life. I listen more than I read print. And while there are many great narrators, not often do I feel like I am like a passenger sitting next to you on your seat in the bus or on the train or walking on this, or that I'm like a part of your camera taking you, like, it just feels really cool. Yeah,
thank you for that. That reminds me of one other thing I can say is that in that when I was recording the audiobook at Aardvark in the little studio, I brought pictures of Tawan and Malati with me and put them up on the behind the microphone, because just what you were saying, I felt like if anybody can keep me honest and like, don't go whacking off somewhere, I needed to see Tawan's and Malati's faces in front of me throughout. So they were like right there, and I have a picture of them, both of their little faces there throughout. And of course, I mean, Adam certainly kept me on track, but it was wonderful. So basically I read the book to them.
Yeah. Oh,
so which is kind of cool to do.
That feels really lovely. Okay, let's go to Lori. I'm just gonna Lori, and then Patrick, and then Megan.
Audio now unmuted.
Well, first, I want to thank you. This has been so interesting to hear you read your book.
Cool.
Now I want to read it really bad, because I love books and everything. And it kind of felt like I was there. I've never been to New Orleans, but just what you described, it just sounds like it's not really a place you want to go to during the summertime. And everything, because I don't like to sweat that much if I can help it. And everything. But, so are all the Champine, I'm not going to say it right. All the
Are you talking about the orangutans?
The orangutans, are they all deceased now, or are any of them living?
No. Tawan passed away in 2016. At the age of 48, he was the oldest male orangutan in North America at the time. His twin sister Chinta passed away in early 2021, and just before her 52nd birthday.
Wow.
And she was, I believe, the third oldest female in in North America, at least at that time. And Melody, we sadly lost. This is where we at 2023. So it was a year ago last December. So December of 2021. So yeah, that's been tough. However, Haran and Bella are doing very well in her. And Melody was just about to turn 50. So all three of them some of the oldest orangutans like anywhere in the world, extremely well taken care of, and like in terms of a life in captivity as good as it could possibly be in that circumstance. I mean, as far as I know, the average lifespan for an orangutan in Borneo and Sumatra right now is somewhere between 25 and 30 years. But that's a lot of that's due to the poaching and to the deforestation. So there's so many mothers being killed and then babies left and having to be in rescue sanctuaries and everything. So, but as I say, it's another. It's the orangutan story. Part of my life is, as I say, it's a whole other book. But yeah, in terms of their ages, yeah, Chinta, Melody, and Tawan all lived to be, either the oldest or the second oldest, the third oldest, or something at the time of their passing.
Oh, that's great. And I bet you have some beautiful pictures of them in your home.
I do. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And actually, if I look this way, I have a massive painting I did of Melody on the wall there. On this wall over here behind me, I've got one of the paintings that Tawan did for me. It's got a bite out of it. He did it, not me. And yes, I photographed them have always photographed them, and there's large portraits of each of them in the hallway. And then one of the real treasures that I have in the living room is one of the other paintings that Tawan did for me back in 2014, I think. And it is a green sparkle butterfly. When I began getting him he loved these sparkle paint tubes, especially the sparkly green and sparkly pink. And this whole painting is done just with his favorite sparkle green. And he created the butterfly using his lips. Like, he'd get enough of the paint pen on the paper, and then like he literally sort of kissed the two sides of the butterfly wings. And so it's a butterfly. Beautiful. If you saw it, it's a butterfly. Yeah, it's pretty. Tawan was an artist in his own right. Melody never wanted to paint herself. She liked to direct it.
She liked to direct.
Yeah, that's what we did for 10 years, basically, is she directed me in everything. She chose all the colors, and this is on either side of a window, just so anybody's not under the impression we were in the same space, but gesturing to everything. But Tawan was, and I've met several orangutans over the years. Tawan is one of the few who was a genuine artist, from the moment I first watched him taking a canvas off and trying all kinds of different things with different techniques with paint pens and rolling things and using his lips, using you name it. It was just he would work on a canvas for a very long time until he was done. So it wasn't a matter of performance art. It was he went off to paint, and he did that with rocks and everything. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much for writing this book.
Thank you very much for chatting.
Thanks, Laurie. We've got Patrick next, and then we'll go to Megan, and then we'll go to Rick.
Cool.
Hello. Karin. Hi. Hello. I wanted to ask, so as it happens, I might be going on a trip to New Orleans this year within the next few months. I'm still not sure yet. And actually, the invitation to this trip is, I directly have you to thank for it, or indirectly because you got me started interviewing celebrities when I interviewed you.
Oh, for goodness sakes, Patrick.
Yes.
So cool.
This is at the invitation of Noah Wiley to visit him on the set of Leverage Redemption. But I was wondering, what suggestions would you have for me going, as somebody who's done very little traveling, going to New Orleans by myself. What if there's one thing you
Well,
can
I think you have
recommend?
to feel it out on your own in terms of like what you feel comfortable with there. That's what I did throughout. And I would not go to Bourbon Street and start drinking. That's one thing I wouldn't do, because and actually one does see that. That's one of the things is like to fall into the tourist trap of like drinking one space. Oh, it's good, just join the party or whatever. That would be something that I never did, and I never would. I think on our return trip we did take a Friday night walk down Bourbon Street, but I was with like 6 other people. So on an initial trip, I'd probably, be with people. But I think that, I mean, there's amazing things like the gospel service at St. Augustine's in Tremé is amazing on Sunday mornings. That is just astonishing. To go up Magazine Street into the Upper Garden District. It's not really up, but anyways, it's just my sense of direction in New Orleans, it's more sort of east and west, but I always thought of it anyways. We think so north and south here because of the way things are laid out, but I think that to go down into the Quarter and walk every bit of it. There's a wonderful museum, the New Orleans Historical Collection on Royal Street, that's in that would be a fabulous place to visit, a really fabulous place to visit. And it's, if you go in the door there, it doesn't look like anything. And then you go in, you're suddenly in this astonishing private museum there. It's not, it's, it's the, I think it's on Royal Street, and it's the historic New Orleans. I will try to find that for you. So,
Okay.
but I would be in groups with people basically, but I wouldn't miss going to the gospel service at St. Augustine's. That is astonishing, just astonishing. And I would go to that museum for sure. And I would walk every block of the Quarter during the day, and I would not drink on Bourbon Street at night.
Okay. Thank you.
Some great travel tips. Okay, we've got Megan next, and then Rick. We'll give Megan a moment to unmute.
Sorry.
There
Okay. I loved that story. It was really, really cool. I loved it because actually I actually wrote a whole list of things for my caregiver's daughter to do, because hopefully they're going to New Orleans, and I got this whole thing, like this amazing. There's like, you wouldn't believe it. Like there's Mauritanians there in the Scout Island. Walking tour on the pedicab, the walking tour, the Meridian District, the Acme Oyster House. That's another one. That's all in New Zealand, and finishes the Elevation Bar, the National World War Museum, the Voodoo Museum, ghost tours, and the swamp tours. You name it, it's there. It's there.
Yeah, you got a lot to do there. That's for sure. I'm familiar with many of those things. Yeah.
And also, there's this I looked on YouTube, and you wouldn't believe this, but on YouTube, oh my gosh, I saw this guy on a tour of I think it was Congo Square. And this guy, he was also a Buddha, but also a Baptist, and he led this guy to a tree, and he would talk to them. And he talked to them of the voodoo history of about the like he would and also demonstrated like how he had a shaker, and he would do the shaker thing and walk around the tree, use a shaker for a bit, walk around. It was so cool. And just with the water spirits, and I'm like, oh, I want to go there so bad.
There's so many things, and I actually did join I went on an incredible ghost tour of the Quarter one night, and it is quite amazing, like the stories that go with that. It's pretty incredible. You'll have a lot of things to do for sure.
Was it with Bloody Mary? Because Bloody Mary does tour too, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
cool.
Apparently there's one. Okay, when you go. Okay, there was one time, I think it was in the Bloody Mary Museum, one of our museums. You would actually go in there and you see a mirror, and you would say Bloody Mary 3 times.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
watch out for that one. Watch out for that one. For guys, if you ever go to New
Yeah,
Orleans, do that.
hadn't heard about that. Very cool. Well, have a wonderful
Thanks.
time when you go. Have a great time.
Thanks, Megan,
Oh.
for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go to Rick next, and then Melanie, and then Louise.
Hi, Karin. It's Rick. It's so nice to meet you. And
Rick Horner?
yes,
Lovely to meet you. Good
it's so nice to
Lord.
meet you.
I'd assume this is so wonderful. Thank you for coming to the event tonight. It's great to meet you. We've never spoken to before, so this is great. VocalEye introducing the world to each other. This is fabulous.
Isn't it great? It's so lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for sharing the book. I haven't gotten it yet, full disclosure. I already intended to, but what I'm already engaged with is, and I know you know this about me a little bit, I do a lot of improv, and a big part of improv is connecting to things in the moment. And what I'm so engaged with in what you read tonight is so I have a house full of stuff because when I get engaged with things, I take something of it with me because I'm afraid that I'm going to forget it. And I
Right.
love that it feels like when you engage with the world, you are taking notes in your book and you're remembering these things that are little connections, little waypoints to these amazing moments. And of course, you already know of my great love for I think the last three Planet of the Apes movies are the best trilogy, not just the best Planet of the Apes movies, but the best trilogy that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I'm just my question is, because I know that you were an actress before you did the Planet of the Apes movies, and what I heard you say tonight about the being in the moment was that you got this being in the moment, being in the present, really, you really locked into that with all of the work and all the hours and hours that you spent being with the apes. I'm wondering, how did that affect your roles since then? Because you do not just that, you do tons of other
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
wondering how.
When the Apes movies came along, I mean, that was in 2010, and had a good 25-year long, mostly musical stage career, up until probably, when is the last musical I did was in 2011, I think. So I did do one more musical after that, but a huge amount of time on stage and, years of TV and stuff like that. But yes, indeed, like the effect of, whatever that particular quality of observation, and I would add to this as an actor, and that you'd understand this as a performer, the sense of doing less and being okay with doing nothing, which is something that came up for me a lot along the way. As whenever I was saying earlier in their conversation tonight about how performance capture picks up like your thoughts have to be so clear. So that also means if you're going, I'm trying to look like I'm this or something, like, any kind of efforting.
Right.
Orangutans are, I can only speak for orangutans, but they're the most astonishing teachers of trusting in stillness, trusting in doing nothing, and just listening and watching, and which in itself is basically training in being just plain fully present, and being also all right with, like, this is where I am right now. So yes, so and that has I think that affected my work in film, especially hugely after that, because you still have to learn all the lines and be all ready, and also be ready to flex and, like, okay, here's 4 pages new, we're going to film it in 5 minutes, and the answer is yes. The answer is not, oh, may I have 6? No, the answer is yes, we're doing it. So you've got to be ready to do that, which means that part of your brain, which is not a do nothing part, it's the, like, memorize that as fast as I can, and then the point being to get really efficient with that work, so then you drop everything, and then you can just be present here with the camera, with the whatever it is. So I feel that what I learned from Tawan and from the experience of playing Maurice is to trust in that level of, finish the work, like do all your work. You still got to learn how to quadruped, you still got to train the muscles to climb or whatever, so you still got to know your sign language, but then you drop all the work and you're just here. And I think that was incredible training for that. Yeah, I think I wouldn't normally put it this way, but I'd say, yeah, did it up my game? Yeah, it upped my game with every other human role after that, for sure. Because it was like I had the secret, which is, okay, you do all that work and now, and then you're ready to flex in any direction, but you're also you're not wasting energy on anything extra. You're just there. So yeah, it's a really good question, Rick. It's actually a very, very insightful about the gift of the orangutans and playing one. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Lovely to meet you here like this. It's so
Actually,
great. Thank you, VocalEye, we're meeting for the first time. We've been in contact over Facebook for some years, and this is the first time we're meeting. So thank you. Thank you, VocalEye. Very nice.
We do what we can.
Yeah.
Next hand is Melanie and then Louise.
Good evening, Karin. It's Melanie.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'd listened to the whole book. I loved it. It really transported me. I have lived in one place my whole life, and it got me kind of thinking, it's a big world. There's a lot out there to see. And I think when you're in one place your whole life, you kind of don't pay attention to things. But I guess my question is, if you could have 4 months anywhere in the world, where would it be? Because you were in New Orleans for 4 months, and you really kind of got to feel for the place.
Well, I kind of feel like, and this is my honest answer to that question, is I really don't know, but I would, and I mean that sincerely, because I've traveled very little myself, actually. I mostly work and work here and stuff like that. And I've gone where the work takes me, but I don't do vacations in any places. I've never been to Europe. There's all kinds of things like that I'd love to see everywhere. But I'd like to be in a place where I could get a further gift of something where I feel that connection to whatever is the thing that's going to bring me along further in whatever way that I particularly need. So I don't know what else to say, but because I sincerely mean that. And I have been amazed at how much I've been able to gain even out of this stillness time in Vancouver through the pandemic, though I was working on film set and stuff like that. But that's what it sort of interests me more. And I'm also very to spend any time with orangutans, really any time with orangutans is it's a sort of I don't know, they're my magic teachers, and I appreciate the fact that I have a special understanding of them. So probably anywhere with orangutans would be great, but there's all kinds of places I'd love to go. And I hope that in your that you're able to get out and travel some also, and for whatever perspective it brings back to you at home as well. There's just something, I think it's not really the where, not the where I would like to travel to, but the how I would like to go there. Does that make sense? In what perspective or what mindset. And I hope that I can travel to a lot of places, but without having an expectation of what they would be like, and to be able to be within myself, ready to take in whatever is the next magic. So that's really what I'd like. And that could be a surprise. I mean, it could be, Kamloops. It could be, I don't know. It could be, next week in Seattle, or I have no idea. It's not particular places. So yeah, I sort of think, I feel more now it's what's the nature of the journey I'd like to experience. So, but I hope you can, where would you like to go?
Oh boy, probably an island all alone for 4 months.
An island all alone. Oh, yes. Well.
Yes, just yes. I would be fine with that.
Just to be connected to nature, somewhere where you
nature,
can
peace, quiet, not dealing with people. I take a little break.
I understand that. Yep. I can totally understand that. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever had that myself. I did have a wonderful cycling trip through Kauai 26 years ago with a musical director friend of mine. And I remember that time there, but it was, 4 days or something like that. And
it would have to be a catered island though, because I'm not going to be survival island. I'm thinking about the logistics of this now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
I
not.
hope that
Maybe
I
not.
hope that I hope it comes to you. That would be great. That'd be wonderful.
Right. Well, thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we're gonna go to Louise as our last question tonight. Give Louise a moment to unmute herself. There she is.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you, Karin. You are a wonderful reader. I've listened to audiobooks since I say about 13, 14 years old. Books, it took me into a world that just is my best friend. I haven't traveled as much, but books have given me so much. And especially when a writer can write it the way you've written it and read it to us, it made me smile.
I'm so glad.
I've read about New Orleans and different novels, especially Mardi Gras and different events, But what I'm saying is it is unique to hear the other side of something. And the way you read is just, it makes you feel like you're there. If you have a good reader, as I think Amy said, you can go anywhere in a book.
Very
if you get a
cool.
reader and you're looking forward to reading a book and the reader's not good, oh,
I know, it's awful.
It's awful. It almost makes you feel like I gotta put this down. I can't read it. I've done that a few times. It's like I've gone looking for another reader. I've gone looking for another, but your voice just brought me into the scenes, and I can't wait to sit down and read it myself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you expressing that. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Louise. Louise, quite a reader, as is many of our community members, quite deeply invested in their reading material. Karin, I guess, I mean, you kind of peppered some of this stuff along the way, but big takeaways for you, learning stuff that you carry with you after this journey. What do you want to share with us about that?
Well, just that it's amazing to think that wherever the journey took me to, that I felt was like, when I did finally see it, was like, oh, that's where it led to. Oh, I didn't even know that when I was there. Mm-hmm. And then after writing the book and then going like, oh, I thought this was the destination. Like, even when the book was finished, I was like, okay, now I finally see the destination. Now I see it's a potentially universally valuable story, not just, me, for me in my bedroom. And even after that, I got a further thing. And this is like, I'm talking like after the book's publication, I went, oh my goodness, the destination was the starting point. And it's so that to me now is having realized that's for myself, where I was like, oh, what I felt was the destination was actually a place to begin. That's where it took me to, was a place to begin. And I do hope for everyone that wherever those places, that you can find magic and grace in the most astonishingly small and unobvious places. And I hope truly that for everyone to have the opportunity to be open to and find those things, and then find those places, be open to those places, arriving in those places, and then to hear it. That moment when we can stop still sometimes, and where there's like, okay, I'm still. And you're sort of like, boom, 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 I'm still, or I'm stuck, or I'm whatever, this feeling of whatever. And you can feel it in your breath, right? Or I'm just breathing a little bit, or I'm, or whatever, which is not stillness. It's you may be stationary, but when you really get to that place of stillness where your breathing relaxes and you feel that sense of an aha moment, that is not like, aha, I just had a brilliant idea. It's a wonderful aha. It's a different kind of aha that I'm talking about. That one where something links up in a sense of connection to whatever. It's nothing you can even really put in words, but you are just entirely right here, and it's all and your breath is relaxed and full, and there's a sense of possibility and hopefulness and possibility within that. It's got, that's what I wish for everyone, not just readers of the book, but that is the place. That's the for me, that's the starting point. This, to be even to get there, that is its own starting point for a journey. And to have journeys that, whether they're in the place where we live, in our bedroom, or you're stuck there or whatever, but to find, for that to become a part of, to become possible for each of us. That's what I would send out there.
I think
and
that's
I hope that for readers of On Constance who may enjoy the story of New Orleans, but I hope that in some way that invitation that ultimately is within the book is heard.
Yeah. I think that's a wonderful gift that you've offered, not only of yourself, but to the readers, because I think, I mean, I can speak for myself, but I think that what I witness in the world around me is that we are so busy with the day-to-day minutia of life that we often miss out on some of these things that you're talking about, that we don't let ourselves feel these moments or experience these moments, and life is too precious, right?
We're often, and we're often looking for something that is out there somewhere. It's out there somewhere. It's always out there somewhere. It's somewhere else. And which is understandable, especially if one is in a tough circumstance, or one is just really busy trying to get things done. And then you go, okay, well, just to people have their hands full with all kinds of challenges and stuff. And to even find space sometimes, to even find like alone, I don't mean a lonely moment, but an alone moment to be able to go, that can be very difficult. People, but that's why too, I think, that's my greatest wish for myself and for others, is to be able to land in that place where you go, as I say, it's not something you can put into words really, but there you are, and you are fully there, and it's connected, and a world of possibility does open up within that, even though you don't know what the next moment is. It's not something you can control.
Even just to be conscious of that. Again, when you get caught in the minutiae of the day, sometimes you're just not conscious of.
And anyways, a great way to start with that is change your breath. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think our breath gets caught into a place, or we're either like, oh, and I'm just breathing here, but a great access point is to take a deep breath, and to really a nice big inhale, a very long relaxed exhale, a minute or two of just breathing, which can be, I know it may sound kind of flaky, but it really is like wherever our breath goes, if the breath is like that, or is not even happening, but in whatever, to create that space with the breath can all of a sudden land you like right here, right now. Pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's something that I need continuous reminding about myself. So thank you for that gift.
Oh, we all do. We all have to. We've each got our. I mean, I have to catch myself and go like, okay, we're taking this space right here, right now. Okay, now recentered, onwards. Yeah.
Karin, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. I could spend another several hours with you in this space, but I want to value your time and value the time of others. I really encourage folks to purchase a copy of On Constance through Post-Hypnotic Press. Don't forget, 15% off until the 19th of February. And then, of course, we also have an opportunity for you to win a copy. And the email will go out to all of our guests tonight with how you can do that. So we hope that this book lands in the hands of people who have a love for what they've heard this evening.
Thank you so much for having me here, Amy. It's been such a pleasure, and for all of you for being here with me for this, my first live reading of a book. Like, holy crow. I thank you all so much. It means so much to me that VocalEye asked me to be here with you, and I really appreciate you coming to be with me for this. I really, really do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome back in this space anytime. Anytime.
Yes, you, Amy.
We have to start planning that next time.
Thank you for sharing your gift.
Karen.
Audio now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
so much.
you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.